let's talk about The Suicide Squad. Now, I don't really have a lot to say about this movie, being that at the time of this recording, there's already been some good reviews that have all said exactly what I feel about this movie. But if I were to say one thing about this movie, it's that the overall tone was the perfect fit for the characters in the story. And the characters in this movie are awesome. I actually like Harley Quinn in this a lot more than I ever did in the original Suicide Squad movie and Birds of Prey. Of course, anyone who has seen some of my videos on DC and its cinematic universe knows that I cannot stand Birds of Prey. So therefore, I don't think that I really need to say much about why I think Harley sucks in that one. She just does. I mean, and if you're that curious, go check out the movie or hell, even go check out the ads, okay? Because the ads, I think, speak for themselves. The advertisement for it, oh my gosh. It was awful. It was a scar. A really huge scar. And oh my god, the interviews for it were so cringeworthy. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. The reason why I like Harley Quinn more in James Gunn's Suicide Squad than I ever do with the original Suicide Squad is because compared to the original Suicide Squad, Harley is actually given a proper motivation of being part of the squad. She's actually given a purpose. Whereas with the original Suicide Squad, I always felt like she was just thrown in there for entertainment value and that's it. You know, all we were ever told about Harley Quinn in the original Suicide Squad is that she's likable, but we never really get any proper insight, even with the extended edition, about why that is. Plus, I really liked Polka Dot Man. I think it's a damn shame they killed him off in this movie. Because compared to all of the Suicide Squad, he actually stands out as being the most relatable. Because of his upbringing and the type of struggles he's had with the outside world, of being different and misunderstood a lot of the time. And granted, I never had a mom who experimented on me, but I definitely have always had a complicated relationship with my mom, to the point of not really wanting to be around her as much. Except it's not her fault though, we just have different ways of thinking. And I don't mean to turn this into a soap opera fest, but most of the time, she would often jump to conclusions and take everything I say and do the wrong way. But I do sometimes try to stick it out with her anyway, just because I love her. Again, I don't mean to go off the rails talking about my mom, but much like Polka Dot Man, this is something that I feel has been an absolute struggle for me. So therefore, I could totally relate to what Polka Dot Man is going through. And it's crazy because I didn't think I was ever going to be able to like Polka Dot Man this much in this movie, because in most DC adaptations, he's usually brought about as being a standard villain, a standard evil villain, you know. But in here, he's actually taken a lot more seriously, which kudos to that. That's awesome. As for the rest of the characters, I liked Bloodsport. I actually think he is more interesting than Deadshot. King Shark, on the other hand, was alright in this. I actually prefer CW Flash's portrayal of King Shark just because I feel that compared to Nanaue, he's actually a much more threatening force. Whereas Nanaue, on the other hand, just kind of feels like the comic relief teddy bear version of King Shark. And I don't know why DC keeps going in that direction with the character, because obviously the other version of him is more visually compelling. I mean, he's got the word king in his name. Come on, that's got to stand for something. But I don't know, I guess maybe some writers and producers just don't feel the exact same way. Peacemaker was very entertaining to watch. John Cena absolutely nailed it in the role. I think it's great that DC is going to be giving him the spotlight in a potential TV series, because at this point I feel like all of the blatant disregard and hatred towards John Cena has just been built on ignorance. Ignorance in judging him based on what he has done and continues to do in professional wrestling and small roles that he has fulfilled in Hollywood. You know, I feel like a lot of people have made too much of a big habit judging him based on his bad performances. And as someone who actually liked John Cena for a brief period in wrestling, yes, I am a wrestling fan for those of you who are wondering, and also like him way more as an actor, I don't think that's right. All of this hate on John Cena is the equivalent of the Star Wars prequel hatred bandwagon. Which is why I love how James Gunn's Suicide Squad constantly references the fact that Peacemaker is such an underrated character. Because honestly, I feel like that is what John Cena has become in Hollywood. With him being given so many small movie and TV show roles and being judged for every single one of those roles. But now I think all of that judgment is starting to die down, and people are now coming to accept John Cena as an actor. But anyway, I also liked Ratcatcher 2 as well. Like most people, I was a bit apprehensive about her character based on the name itself. I thought it was very silly, honestly. That moment where John Cena as Peacemaker, kind of jokes about her name and says, Ratcatcher 2, what about Ratcatcher 1? Was a huge highlight for me because that's exactly how I felt about her character when this movie was first being announced. I was like, what the hell? Ratcatcher 2? What's the nuance behind that? And come to find out, she's actually the daughter of the original Ratcatcher who is dead. From that point on, I almost thought that she was just going to be another one of those pointless side characters, like Finn from the Star Wars sequels. But no, it turns out, much like Harley Quinn in Polka Dot Man, she's actually given a purpose in this movie, which is great. And the actress who plays her is amazing. I don't know the actress's name, but she totally looks like she could be Jessica Cruz. And if you don't know who Jessica Cruz is a character in the DC universe who is part of the Green Lantern Corps. And yes, she is a Green Lantern. There's a lot of speculation going around, and I'm not sure if this is 100% true or not. This could, for all we know, be a fan cast type of thing. But there's a lot of speculation going around that Diana Guerrero, who played as Crazy Jane on DC's Doom Patrol, might possibly play as Jessica Cruz in the upcoming Green Lantern TV series. And she definitely does look the part for sure. But if it were up to me, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing the Ratcatcher 2 actress play as that character. Besides, I think that her take on Jessica Cruz would actually kind of help elevate the character a bit and, mature her a bit, make her look a bit more adult than how the way she usually looks in both the comics and cartoons. Because she definitely does look like she has that charm in most of her performances. But I don't know, that's just me. But anyway, as for the other squad members like TDK, Blackguard, Mongel, and Savant, I actually did not care for any of them, because based on what the trailers have showed us, I kind of got the feeling that they were all just going to be pawns for whatever operation Task Force X had to take care of. And turns out, I and many others were right. The only original squad members that actually stuck out as being important were Javelin and Captain Boomerang, because they actually played a role in help elevating Harley Quinn as a character in this movie. Mostly Javelin. Otherwise, if it weren't for them, she would have ended up being just as wasted as her 2016 Suicide Squad counterpart. Also, I don't care what anyone says, but Birds of Prey was a slap in the face and a huge waste of continuity with Harley Quinn. People want to say that James Gunn's Suicide Squad was a huge waste of time. No. Birds of Prey was a huge waste of time. James Gunn's Suicide Squad at least had a decent plot structure and character development. We got none of that in Birds of Prey. The only character that was actually somewhat interesting in that movie was Huntress, and even she wasn't handled properly. Because, first of all, why would you cast Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress? I would have gotten someone like Gina Carano or Mei Ling Yang, someone who actually looks like a badass in real life to play as Huntress. Because Huntress in the comics and cartoons is a badass. And I just felt like in here, in Birds of Prey, she wasn't really a badass. She was more of just like an actor trying to be Huntress. That's the kind of impression I got from Mary Elizabeth Winstead's portrayal of Huntress. No offense to Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but I just felt like I wasn't really looking at Huntress. I was looking at Mary Elizabeth Winstead being Huntress. Kind of like how with Deadshot in the first Suicide Squad movie. I didn't really see Deadshot. I mostly just saw Will Smith being Deadshot. And second of all, why make her into a joke? I get it, this is a different version of the character, but still, it's freaking Huntress. If you're gonna adapt a character like that into this movie, adapt that character. Don't just go the serious route with her character in only one portion of the film and then completely shit on her in the second portion. It's like, come on. And that's the problem with Birds of Prey, is that it went too far with trying to downplay all of the characters. Now, I haven't read any Birds of Prey comics, so therefore my knowledge of them isn't really as solid as much as the next guy's, but I'm pretty sure that they are more visually appealing than what the movie has showed us. That's why Birds of Prey, for the most part, really should have been a Harley Quinn movie instead of a Birds of Prey movie. This movie could have introduced us to Poison Ivy, and from that point on, her and Harley could have developed a strong bond like her and the Joker did. But it is what it is. Anyway, I don't know why people have been slamming James Gunn's Suicide Squad. The only kind of issue I have with James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and it's not even really an issue, it's more of a nitpick, and that is, I thought that they killed Captain Boomerang off way too early. Like, I get it, it's the Suicide Squad, and the whole point of the Suicide Squad is that nobody is safe from whatever challenges that lie before them. But I just thought that they killed off Captain Boomerang way too early because I would have liked to see him in more DC stuff, not just Suicide Squad. Same thing with Polka Dot Man, if I knew they were going to be going in a more serious route with the character. Also, I thought that one scene of Harley Quinn making out with the Dictator was a bit hazy, because based on how the way the conversation between them was going, it seemed like she was really gonna get with this dude. But no, turns out it was all an elaborate plan on her part to defeat him and save kids from ending up in Jotunheim. And while I will admit that was a pretty clever plan, I do think that it could have gone a bit differently. So you see, even I can admit that this movie is not perfect for anyone who may think that I'm just fanboying it. But still, I had a good time nonetheless. Which is why I'm going to give James Gunn's The Suicide Squad a 9.5 out of 10.